Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. I haven't fallen off yet, John, so knock
That's
on wood.
good, because I have.
Oh no.
Oh, yes.
I have fallen off in an exercise class. I've fallen off an exercise ball, but not at my desk.
Okay.
Not trying to put a leg up in the air or something.
Oh my
In
God.
the exercise class, I fell off and knocked other people off their balls.
Did you get extra points for that, though?
No, they charge
Oh,
for extra fee.
I wasn't allowed back. No, I'm just kidding.
Uh,
Sure glad all that was recorded. Thanks, Morgan. Couldn't have started that a minute later, eh? Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
Hello, Michael. Michael?
Oh, it's muted. How's everybody?
good morning.
Good, really good.
Good. Absolutely. Wonderful. Oh, hi, Sean. Good to have you here in place of your team. Wonderful. Well, I guess we'll get started. I'm not sure where everyone is today, but that is okay. We'll have a nice intimate group. Hopefully people will start joining. So as per usual, welcome back. Happy New Year. And let's start with some wins and celebrations. Learnings, anything you've been, you want to kind of share. Thanks, Martha. Yeah.
So I just went over the sales modules and I'm just having so much fun with them. I've done sales before and that I've run my own business really since I was 26. So I enjoy sales, but it's just fun and loving the actual scripts that we can use with these business clients. It's really helpful for me just to have the language. And I just actually went in and set up some Google alerts, which I figured out how to do. So I was really happy with that.
Fantastic. Good. I think that's a really underused strategy, the Google Alerts. I'm not sure how many of you are using them. I know Marcia was using them quite a bit, which is awesome, but I'm glad you started to do that.
Yeah, so good.
Yes, John.
So on Saturday, I met with the man who was instrumental in the kind of the foundation of the program that I do, and he's a doctor, and we talked about issues in healthcare and who to connect with, and he gave me a couple of good leads of people that would be good to talk to. So that was a great conversation to reconnect with him and get some good ideas from that. Sent in my first draft of the one sheet and the 7 reasons to hire, and my word bank to Sarah, and we're going to talk because we have a few things to talk about, which is great. But we're doing that, and yeah, and I'm ready to start reaching out and contacting people. But that's kind of the basis of my question today. But at least I'm ready for that, and I find myself going, "Ooh, I don't know if I'm ready for that." So anyway, that's where I'm at.
Phenomenal. Sorry, is that kind of like fear part of your question today, John? Can we address that later?
That's not part of my question, but yes, what's coming up is like, yeah, this could get real, and I don't know if I'm ready for real yet.
Okay, let's make sure we tackle that in your question. If I forget, Michael and John, remind me, or whoever's answering his question. Let's remember to do that. Anyone else have something to share, some progress they're making? Yeah, Michelle.
So I got one of the 2 articles written and submitted that I planned to do on Friday, last week, and have done the follow-up that I was going to do. And then, like Martha, I went back through all the sales modules and created a document with the scripts and everything. And I found, again, which I don't even understand how I glossed over that, the interview strategy. And I thought, oh my God, this is perfect, especially for me. It's such a good in. So this morning I have 10 names that I just found. And when we're done here, I'm just sending them those emails to say, hey, can we have an interview chat? And I think that's going to be a strategy that will really work for me on top of the others, because it's just, I think I have the right in for that kind of avenue to get in without people saying, it's interesting enough, I think. So So I'm excited about that.
So funny how it works, because I remember us talking about that weeks and weeks ago. So I'm so glad that's kind of come up again for you. And
Yeah, I don't know how it dropped off, but it kind of dropped off my radar. And then I thought, oh, this could be fun and this could be easy, because sales sometimes feels really hard. But it's not, clearly. We just have to get over that. But yeah.
The words fun and easy are better mantra words for that, for sure. And I really appreciate you bringing up the things that you committed to doing on Thursday's call and celebrating them as wins today. That is absolutely perfect. And John, I believe you were doing that as well. So super, super awesome. Sophia, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. It's hard to see sometimes. One of the things I'm getting is more clarity, which for me is exciting because I have 3 silos, if you will, that I'm working on through. And it's like, so what do they have in common? And I realized that it's all effective communications. So I'm late. Branding myself more and more in that way, that it is an issue of communication, clear communications, and that feels much better. Yesterday I had a meetup group and one person showed up with 20 minutes late. So I was just sitting there doing my work at the meeting place, and it was a wonderful session with her. And if nothing else, I have a raving fan now. So I'm going to now schedule them on a regular basis, because that's how I'm going to build my tribe.
I love the meetup group strategy. I have to say, it's not really part of this course, but I've had some clients in the past have really great success with that, but you have to do it consistently. So one person in a start, I've had huge success. I had hundreds and hundreds of people not show up, but in a meetup group that I started.
Yeah.
So
I've got about 100, and I didn't do anything with it for a year. And they just kept joining, and I created 2 more within, because I think I have 3 as part of my contract with them, and people are joining. And all I did was describe what the meetup would be about. I also, Sunday, I led a service at church, and afterward, a couple of people who know me and follow me on Facebook, they said, so what are you starting your online program? And I didn't remember ever saying I was going to do that on any of my Facebook Live posts, and yet apparently I did. And I said, oh, I'll be doing it soon. They said, well, you better, tag me, because we want to know about it. So apparently I'm doing an online program soon on a regular basis.
Classic.
Yeah.
too funny.
Be careful. Be careful what you put out there, huh?
Yeah, well, the thing is, as years as a minister, people will come up and tell me what they heard me say, and no way did I say what they heard. So that's also very interesting. People hear what they need to hear. So I'm excited about that. I already have a following. Who knew?
Phenomenal. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Leslie, are you planning on sharing? It looks like your hand is raised.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I popped in late, but are we on success?
Yes, wins, yeah. Celebration.
Celebration. So, no, since I've decided to specialize or focus on addiction and codependency, I reached out to coda.org, which is the codependents. So I'm going to work with families, and had a great conversation. So now I'm on their board, and the guys talking about being a delegate, speaking at the conferences. So I don't think any of it's paid. But it's huge to be able to get in with an international organization. So, and the second was I just did a radio show I'm co-hosting on Tuesdays, and afterwards I asked for feedback, and the woman was like, well, you go off task a lot. And I know I do that. So I was like, I didn't think I did though. I was just listening to the recording, and I'm like, oh, hell no. Talk about hearing she went off all the time. I was like, I actually pulled her back onto topics. So I felt pretty good about that it was just her perception of, but that's good. So that's today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, congratulations on getting in with that international organization. And we'll, as we've said, it can get you in a lot of other doors, if you're following up, asking for referrals, asking for connections. So awesome work.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else to share before we get into the questions today? Yeah, Steve.
I put it in the chat just in case.
Oops.
That I lost a gig in San Diego, but I'm looking at that as a win because they were really, really trying to push my price down, and I'm like, nope, sorry. And so I just said, this is what it is. I'll waive travel just for this one time, and that's kind of the jam. If you record it, and they said, okay, no, but you're still too expensive. I said, okay, thank you very much. Good luck. And I was happy that I did that because it just was, not cheapening my services. So thank you for that.
Good.
Do you mind, just for reference and learning for others, do you mind sharing, if it's okay, what your quoted wanted you for?
I didn't hear that, Michael. You broke up.
If you don't mind, if it's not too personal, if you don't mind sharing with the group what your quoted price was and what they wanted you for, so people can appreciate that.
No, that's fine. No, so for this one, it was a 45-minute keynote that I proposed out for 5,500. And even added on, hey, while I'm on site, I'll do like a 45-minute executive, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's great. And then plus travel. And initially it was sticking with the plus travel part. I'm like, that's really what you're talking about? So, okay. And then they kind of came back and said, well, we really don't have that much budget, which I don't know why they engaged me when I initially told them the money. And so then they wanted me for like 1,000. I'm like, no, thank you. Especially, and it's without travel. So I'm like, okay, I'm Orlando, you're San Diego. No, this is just not any sort of win. So I said no.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, that sounds like a big win. Bullet dodged there for sure. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. Let's dive into some questions.
So we'll start with Martha's cheat sheet. So Martha created a cheat sheet for the sales process. I would appreciate feedback. Are you going to show us your cheat sheet? Is that?
I can happy to do that. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can just share my screen and find it. It's just basically, I don't want to keep everybody.
Well, whatever. Yeah, I was just asking.
It's basically what I did was I just went through that your sales process defined and did the screenshot off of Pipedrive that was on there. And really like the idea of Pipedrive. I'm going to use that, and just wanted to sort of clarify those steps so that I'm not missing anything and understanding how it goes.
Okay, so how can we help?
I think the best thing for me to do would just read the steps. Oh,
Okay.
here I've got that. Okay, so what I wrote down was prospecting, which is essentially the first one that David has on his Pipedrive. And then after you've got your prospects, you contact people, get your calls scheduled, have an initial conversation, follow up with a second conversation, follow up with emails, always with the added value assets that he talks about, building that, 10 to 15 of those, articles, videos, links, PDFs, so that you're always adding value to the conversation. And you're not just hammering them, you're actually giving them useful content. And then the final one is scheduling a decision call. So is there anything that you guys have to add to that, or anything to keep in mind along the way? In other words, one question I had that was very specific is, how do you define your active 20?
Well, first on the overall outline, I think having this document front and center. For you, it sounds like a good idea, and frankly, I think it could benefit everybody. I just rewrote it as you were saying it, and me, who helps teach the course and has been a coach for 18 years, I'm thinking, wow, I like how simple that is. And that, that is the process, right? One thing I just want to say, you guys, is our businesses don't fail because we don't, we might put, well, do I contact by a phone call or an email? Or if I send an email and I forget to add a value add, did I screw up? Or what happens if I do step 7 before step 4? That's not why businesses fail. Why businesses fail is because we don't do any of this, generally speaking, or we don't do enough of it. So that's just what I wanted to declare. Good for you for having it front and center and do that, right? And I'm not just speaking to Martha, but it's all right there. We reach out to prospects. We initiate contact, we have a conversation with them, we take action on what they say, or we submit a proposal, we follow up again. If they're not responding to us, we give them value and reasons to connect with us. And the cycle repeats and continues, and it really never ends. And then the last thing I just wanted to say on this, just again, look at David. Just pay attention to what he's doing. Go look at his Facebook posts. Look today as to what he's posting about his book launch and strategic alliances and following up with people, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's so helpful for us not only to heed the advice of our teachers, in this case David, but also watch, because you'll see that he's doing exactly what he preaches.
Great.
So I'll pause there for now. And then was there any questions or comments on that from anybody before we hit the second part of your question? Okay, and then the second part was specifically, how do you choose your active 20? Probably, right. I'll ask for your help on that stuff. You might be
well. I mean, David has some nuances with Active 20, so you can watch the video. So if maybe he'll say something slightly different than what I'm about to say, but the idea behind the Active 20 is just you have 20 people who are people you would love to work with. And they're just in your pipeline, and you're following up with them, and you're messaging them, and you're trying to get on the call with them. You're sending them value-added things, just exactly what you're talking about in the pipeline. So, and at some point, they'll say no, let's say, and maybe they drop off the Active 20, or maybe it's a no, not now. Maybe you follow up with them again next year or something like that. Or maybe there's something different that you want to work with them on. So it's possible a no isn't a solid no, but the Active 20 is just people that are really like your focus for the moment. There's probably going to be more than 20 like in the periphery, but 20 that are really solidly important to you. And you're choosing them. It's not, I don't think there's like a criteria other than one that you select for yourself. So these are companies you'd really like to work with. Maybe you have some sort of that you're nurturing. So they might be associations that you're trying to get into, or corporations, or referrals, or people you maybe interview, like Michelle was saying, you interview them and then you're following up with them. Whatever your strategy is, they're just kind of in the Active 20. It's kind of like the people that are
in your radar, sort of in your orbit. They're in your orbit. Yeah. And would that reverse prospecting strategy apply here as well? I know, Michael, that's one of your favorite strategies. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter how they get into the Active 20, like which strategies you're using. In my opinion, again, you can watch the video. I'm trying to recall if there's a more specific thing here, but they're just the front and center people. So whether they get in through reverse prospecting or interviews or referral or a air conversation or just sometimes just you met them at a networking event or whatever, right?
Right.
They're the people that are front and center. You're putting a lot of effort and goodwill and towards those people.
And I just want to add the concept of, I remember, I think I saw in a video David did, it may have been something that came up from Stephanie or one of us in the class, but if it's just the act of having 20 leads that you're always working on. So when and if one comes through as a prospect, well, they're not a lead anymore. So you add somebody else to the list. Or if somebody finally says no, thank you very much, which is great. I love no's. No's are better than no answers. Then you move them off the list and there's somebody else. So try not to get too hung up, not to say you are, Martha, but for everybody, who are the 20? Where do I find them? What strategies do I use? At it more as a conceptual way of being and a way of driving your business forward, that if, gee whiz, do I have 20 leads that I'm working on right now? If I do, great. That's probably a good sign that my business is going to grow. And if I don't, why not? Oh, I'm not taking enough action. What am I not doing that I don't have 20 leads right now?
I love that. That's great. I love that it's sort of conceptually, as you said, a way of being. So as I'm understanding it, reverse prospecting, air conversations, interview, these are all sales strategies.
Those are all strategies, correct.
Those are strategies, ways to get somebody into the prospecting column.
There you go. They're strategies to produce an active 20 list.
Great. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, they're like the way that the door gets opened. They're not sales techniques, because none of them, it's not like in the interview you're selling to them or anything. They're door openers. They're making you be known to that person you're putting yourself on their radar, and you're becoming known as that trusted advisor.
Yeah, and I love David's strategy of actually asking permission to treat them as if they were your client, so that you can actually have like a mini coaching session with them on the phone, so they can see you in action and receive some of what you have to teach. I think that is brilliant.
Patricia, yes, the active 20 is a fluid list. You've got in the comments.
How many of you have an active 20?
This is Marcia. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm in Northern Virginia, stuck in traffic right now because it's snowing. I have an active 18, and I use the interview as a marketing strategy. But I will tell you that when you speak to people who are experts using this strategy, you have to be able to finesse it very well. Because the people are asking me after I do the interview, I'm getting a lot of, oh my gosh, just insight you can't get from an article. But they're asking, when is the article going to be published, right? Where is it going to be published at? Because they want to use it as a way to make themselves look good as well.
Good job.
Just what I've been experiencing the past 2 weeks.
That's great. Thank you.
Anything else to add, Michael? You're good.
No,
cool.
That's good.
Good.
Thanks.
Great question, Martha. And so glad that you've put that together. So, okay, Marcia, your question is up next. How to use your personality type to attract and connect with clients. Do you have anything to add to that before we dive into it? Where's that coming from? Give us a little context.
Sure. So let's say you're working with the school system. School systems are all about systems. So if you're going through their procurement office, for example, you're going to have to be the person that's very systematic. They're going to ask for a lot of details, right? But let's say you have a personality type that you're a very people person, right? That may not be the best client to do business with, right? Because it's going to be more of a slow and steady. Or for example, let's say you have a dominant personality, so you're very direct and straightforward. Some people do not receive that well. You know, they may end up working with someone else that fits, I guess, more in alignment with how their personality is. So I guess my question is, does that work in terms of attracting clients? And does that also work in terms of moving the conversation forward to then getting a conversion to then making money?
Yeah, really good question. And actually, if you guys have anything to chime in, I think that some examples of how you're doing this would be really helpful for Marcia. But so I think there's kind of like two questions there, Marcia, because one is how companies make decisions, I think. And I think that might be important to just be aware of. I think it could partly be personality type. Like if you're impatient, for example, then it's going to be harder to get into some of these strategies. But I think how people make decisions is different than the personality that you're portraying and like your persona. Are you asking about one more than the other, or kind of both? I just want to make sure I'm going the right direction.
Okay, I'll give you a really concrete example. Let's say you have 3 keynote speakers in front of you. All of their videos are fabulous. Their prices are within, my budget, but I have to pick just one. I have to convince the person that's the decision maker why we should go with this one over the other 2. What do you say as the finalist to be able to close that deal?
Okay, perfect.
Like what's your purple cow, basically, I guess is what I'm asking.
Sure. So, okay, so first of all, I think number one, kind of like what Steve was saying earlier, I think it's really important that you do business with people that respect you and that do mesh with your places that you actually will enjoy working with, right? So if they're completely opposite to you, if you find them very challenging to work with, for example, then generally, like, you would want to maybe find clients that you find more fun to work with and easier to work with. I know that's a really simplistic thing to start with, but I think that's really important. We don't want you to just go take every piece of business that comes your way, whatever they're paying, wherever it is, and then have you hate your career. So then the second piece is the more business that you take that aligns with what you love and what you like doing and what you want to be known for, the more business you will get that aligns with that. So it is important to say no to things that really don't fit you, because then the people that you're saying yes to have a better understanding of what you're all about and what they can refer you for. So it does snowball. If you're doing work that you love will turn into more work that you love. So I think that's super important. And then what you want to be known for can be very deliberate. You can craft your purple cow, so to speak, or sometimes it just is who you are. Like, I suspect for you, if you're kind of being yourself in conversation, and at least the Marcia that I know that we have talked, you're incredibly smart. You're very straightforward. And I think that will be a different personality type to a lot of the other speakers that you might be up against. So I think it's important to kind of show up how you want to be and not contrive that. And then people will be attracted to that. Sorry, I feel like I'm going a little bit in circles here. Rod says he has something to add. So go ahead, Rod.
Sure.
Okay, good afternoon. What I would add to that is I'm an A-type personality, so I'm aggressive. So sales, none of that stuff scares me, right? I just keep, putting in proposals, and somebody's going to say yes. My wife, on the other hand, she's very laid back and very people-oriented. So I bounce things off of her all of the time. So when I'm going into meetings, especially with the school board, I bring her with me so you can decide which one you like. You like the aggressive person, you like the laid back person. We're both in the same room. So she's going to be sweet. She's going to be cuddly, and you're just going to fall in love with her. And I'm going for the bottom line. So you might want, and most people date the opposites or marry the opposites. So bring your significant other, bring them as part of your business, and then listen to them when they give you advice, because they're giving it to you from a different perspective, and then try to find that nice middle. And I think you can win when you look at it that way.
Okay, so this is exactly what I was thinking, but because I'm not lucky to have a brilliant significant other, this is where I'm going to push this to. Some people hire someone to close the deal, such as a high I or a people person, because they can do it, they can finesse it much easier. So in my mind, I'm thinking that may be worth the time and the investment for me, just based on timelines, right?
Yes, you can do. You can hire that. You can hire that person, or you can date that person and bring them along. It's normally free if you date them. So go ahead.
I was about to say it might be cheaper if I do that option.
Sorry, Rod, that ain't free.
Michelle, what would you like to add?
Well, I'm just wondering, Marcia, are these face-to-face conversations that you're thinking of?
If I can have a meeting with them face to face.
And are they also phone potentially?
They're all phones in the beginning. I think for me, it's moving the needle forward to get that face to face.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a shameless plug here, but
Please
honestly,
do, Michelle. Yeah.
really, you can use their face to understand what their personality is like, and then even from a LinkedIn photo or something to understand how they see the world. And if it's potentially different from yours, then you can craft your language and your positioning in such a way that it resonates with them more. But just in general, even if you never read
Yes, that's what I was looking for. That's it.
is that just one thing to think about is that we think people want to be treated the way we want to be treated. We kind of tend to golden rule everybody, but nobody is us, right? So they're never going to see things our way. So you want to give them whatever they need the way they want to see it. So if you can find a way to platinum rule them and figure out what it is that's most important to them and position what you have in terms of how they want to hear it. So if you're aggressive but they're touchy-feely, then ask about their family first and then give them your pitch or whatever it is. So then you build that rapport enough to say, oh my God, this person gets me so much, I can't not hire her, right? So, I mean, you can do it in a variety of ways, but always thinking we tend to do things the way we like or sell things the way we like the product, but we need to know the way they would like the product.
So the emotional payoff that's in the modules, I think that's going to be the one, appealing to the emotion of the person.
Well, so there's a distinction here that maybe I missed when you first asked the question, Marcia, about like you as a presenter and like as a business, like what your personality is and what you are known for. And then kind of what Michelle and a couple other and Rod and everyone was saying here is that sales process. So in the sales process, you're adapting to their decision-making style and you're adapting to what their pains are, what they want to hear and how they make their decisions. But but the second piece is the stage personality, right? They're hiring you for you and your personality. So I think I guess there's some nuances there because it's important that they know what they're getting. Like when they hire you to present, that they're getting a certain, repertoire of things and adapting to how they're making decisions in the sales process, like Michelle is saying, and Rod is really important because they aren't necessarily the audience, they're the buyer. So they are two different lanes. So on your website and stuff, for example, like you as the speaker, your personality is coming through there. And when you get a referral, for example, it's like, oh, you've got to hire Marcia. She is X, Y, and Z. And that's what you're known for, which is different to a certain extent to how the sales and the partnership and that goes, right?
Yes, I mean, it's two different things that make sense. That makes sense. Which clearly, if I'm doing it all on my own, that's probably why it's not translating is easy for me.
Well, so that's partly like if you look through the sales modules, which I'm sure you've done a bunch of times, they're really questions, right? It's about asking a good question, not about so much the what you're selling them. Like what you're telling them is less important than the questions that you're asking and what they're telling you. So
I think for me at this point, truthfully, it's going to come down to how can I get to that point where I can have that conversation, right? The conversion, like, how much is turnover costing you, right? This is what it's costing you based on these reasons. If you pay employees this much, if your leaders come to this program, this is how I can help them do that. I can't get to that conversation. That's what I'm saying. So how do I get to that point where we can actually have that meeting and have that conversation? Because that's really where it comes in. That's really where I can solve your problem, but I can't solve it if we're just, having interviews talking about the challenges of your diversity and inclusion program at your company.
Right. So maybe I think you have a one-on-one booked with me, right? So
Yes, yes.
Maybe we'll talk about that there, but that's where the door opening strategies that Martha was talking about come in. So the interview, the air conversations, the reverse prospecting, and then it's the process after that. So you have that interview, then there's the follow-up that happens after that, and then a little while later, hey, like, are you still having that problem that you mentioned in the interview? Can we hop on the phone and talk about it? That's, there's some transitions that can happen there.
Okay. So in a nutshell, for me, it's just going to be about timing again. Yeah.
Well, if timing, you mean like that it takes time. I absolutely agree. Yes.
Yes. That's what it is. I mean, I can't have an interview on Tuesday, right? And then 2 weeks from now, expect that, you're going to bring me in to have a 2-day intensive with your company.
Probably
in
not.
my mind, right. That's
probably
ideal.
not. But sometimes you're doing an interview and you're asking really great questions and they're uncovering stuff and they're like, oh, like, you sound really smart. Like, maybe you can help my team with this. And you're like, great, let's set up another conversation about that. Like, sometimes it can happen very quickly. Certainly with air conversations, when you're asking really good questions, you're positioning yourself as the expert because you have a lot of answers. You're asking really great questions. And then they kind of come to you. They're like, oh, it sounds like you really understand this problem. And I have this problem. Maybe we can talk about solving that problem. So I'm not saying that happens every time, but it certainly can happen. That's a good.
I can envision that for myself. I can envision doing that.
Perfect. Any follow-ups? Anything we missed there? No? All right, awesome.
On to John. I'm targeting the healthcare industry with specific focus on improving the quality of patient experience. There are many, many, many healthcare related associations. Many. That's good. Clearly, I can't connect with all of them. Where do I start? What criteria should I use in deciding which organizations to contact first? When you say contact, John, what is your plan?
That's part of the question too. But what I've done in the past is something David recommends, but like kind of down the level of importance. But I've reached out in the past via email. Who is the person who is in charge of bringing the speakers for your event? And I do get some replies to that. That's part of the question too. It's like, who do I contact to, and how do I contact, and how do I decide who to contact first and prioritize all of that? So
okay, so I'm going to start with this. One thing I sometimes like to do in my coaching is just direct you flat out, no messing around with coaching and asking questions and stuff, and just see how it lands. Okay, so is that cool?
Yep.
Okay, so don't worry about how to pick the first 10. So let's say you're doing a Google search and you find, and there's many healthcare related associations. Don't do anything other than pick 10, pick the top 10, shut your computer down, and then reach out to them. That's it.
Okay.
And then after those 10, pick the next 10 and go from there. So I'm going to just stop there. How does that feel? Do you, oh, wow, that solves that? Or do you say, what are you, nuts? I got to do way more research before I reach out to 10. Where does your mind go?
No, that makes sense. And what I've done in the past is find 100. And then, again, my mode of contacting was through email. So I would send those emails out, and whatever responses I got back, I would follow up with the second email. But, yeah, take 10, and maybe the priorities will kind of float to the surface about people who are interested. Is that?
Finish your question.
And your statement is contact them. How do you're recommending to contact via email or via phone?
Okay, now we're into the next phase of your question. So before we get into how you're going to contact them, are you saying, yeah, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pick the
Yeah,
first
that works for me.
to 10. It could be 100. I mean, even if you pick 10, you're going to get to 100 at some point. But it's no more and the reason, by the way, let me just ask the group, why am I suggesting maybe this is the way to go as opposed to perhaps more research and determining which ones to reach out to?
I can answer that one.
Okay, go ahead, John, and then Martha, real quick.
Just to get started doing something rather than nothing, rather than like pick, go, instead of say, well, I got to get 100 before I go, or I've got to sort through them and process them. Just to get going and do something.
Martha, is that what you were going to say too, or something different?
No, pretty much the same thing. I think we can all get stuck in analysis paralysis, as I put in the chat box, just wanting to get it just right and to choose the right thing and to do the right thing. But I think what Michael's speaking to and suggesting is it's the theme of the course. Just do it.
Yeah.
You're going to figure out where you need to go next. It's like the yellow brick road, you just follow it.
Yeah, perfect. Good. Okay, John, so then the answer to your next question is email. Right. So I think you asked, should I call them? Should I send an email? So again, just kind of picking up on our theme, the answer is email. You good with that?
Yep.
Any other questions?
No, though the email process works for me. I've got that down pretty well. At least it's a good into the next person. So, yep, that works fine.
Yep, there you go. One last thing I wanted to say is think about the numbers. You reach out to 5 per day, 5 days a week. That's 25 times 4 weeks a month. That's 100. And does anybody remember the number of bookings you're projected to get when you do this over time and do the follow-up associated with it? What's the number out of 100?
Is it 5?
Close. 4 or 5. Okay, first you guys, you should all know that number. You got to know from where you're starting from so you can measure your results compared to what David has put out there. So my reason for just bringing that up is, putting it bluntly, if you reach out to 100 associations, you're going to book 4 gigs. That means 96 you're not. So all the potential research you're doing, should I reach out to this one or should I reach out to this one? You're not going to book them anyway. And so I want to also take a moment and say, I'm not saying churn and burn and don't have any method to your madness, but it only so many of them are going to book with you. And you nailed it, John, when you said something right back at the beginning of the question. It'll become more clear as you start going through these, what your next steps are and what associations you should reach out to next. Because it's like a web. One thing will start leading to another. Those people will start giving you leads, who will then give you other leads, and it begins to take a life of its own.
Okay. Great. It does. Thank you.
Can I add a little bit? I just, John, the how you're reaching out to them is definitely important. So make sure you're going through the prospecting section of the course and looking, are you interviewing them? Are you doing air conversations? Are you doing reverse prospecting? Because we don't, it technically is in there, the cold outreach, but that's kind of like, if you're doing everything else and you're sitting at an airport and you just want to reach out to some people and you've got nothing else to do, then you can do that. But it's the least effective strategy. So if you can look at kind of those active 20, you can look at the warmer introduction, the positioning you as an expert introductions, those will be more effective. So I would strongly recommend that when you're reaching out to these people, it's not just churning through, sending like cold email after cold email. I'd really love for you to be looking at the warmer expert positioning strategies that we have.
Okay. Yeah, and I
Guys,
think some of that email for me has been, okay, this is the person to contact next. So like now my approach with that next person is, hey, so-and-so recommended you.
Yes,
and
good.
then I would use those, position as an expert, air conversations, interviewing kinds of things. So it does open the door sometimes to, this is the person, instead of trying to guess who that is.
Good. And that's super important because obviously you're not going to interview 25 people a week, right? So,
Right.
that's when the research does like sometimes creep in because you obviously want to be, saying, hey, I want to interview you to people you actually want to interview. But you're so perfect. If you're using that strategy to get in touch with the right person, then great. And then using those strategies after that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Did we address the kind of fear piece of this? So Michael, do you want to go there?
Real quick, maybe I misunderstood something. John, I thought you were reaching out to associations to offer to speak to them, not to set up air conversations. Did I miss something?
No, what I want to do is speak. Yes. I mean, that's my ultimate goal.
Okay. So I just wanted to remind you guys all, if somebody has a contradictory view of this, tell me. Associations are looking for speakers. They're looking for you guys. And so don't be bashful about reaching out to associations and offering to speak to them, period. Very direct. Hi, my name's John Nepper. I specialize in this. Are you looking for a speaker to speak at one of your next chapter, regional, or national meetings? Question mark. I look forward to your response. I mean, it can be that simple sometimes, you guys. Not at the expense of the other strategies, but in the association market, they're looking for speakers. So don't be bashful about being direct. And that maybe that even ties to your question. What was that, John?
No, it actually doesn't. I mean, to me, all of these other things are great in creating kind of that warm market. But what you just said is exactly what I'm looking for. Like, it's direct. Are you looking for a speaker? I'm the guy. I talk about this. That seems direct and like getting to the whole crux of the point of contacting them. That's what I want to do. So
yeah.
So I like it. It's direct. It's simple. It's perfect. And thought maybe we're not supposed to do that. Like, we're supposed to kind of, dance around it. But direct and simple and straightforward is exactly what I wanted to hear you say. Thank you.
Great. Michelle?
Well, Michael, on that, then what if well, I know I'm doing the what if, but what if they come back and they say, yeah, sure, but we don't pay for speakers?
Okay, well then, first of all, great question, and that's a good problem to have, right? So then you deal with that, and we can address that as a question. I'll let Stephanie decide where we're at in the question queue, and that's a great question, and it's a separate question, but like, isn't that a good problem to have, getting a response and then starting to have the money conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So Steph, I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, you have a pretty short answer to this. It's just.
So Michelle, the question is exactly what again?
Well, I know a lot of associations, especially chapters, they don't necessarily pay for speakers. So,
okay. So
then what happens if you get a response, but they're like, sure, we'll have you talk, but we don't pay our speakers?
Well, okay. So, there's different ways to handle that. What, I guess, kind of black and white. One of them is you either assuming that you take the step of seeing if you can get them to pay. Don't just,
Mm-hmm.
kind of back to what Steve said. Just because they say they don't pay or can't pay doesn't mean that they won't. And if you have that conversation with them and they won't pay or can't pay, then you have a choice to make. Is it worth speaking for free to them because of what I can get from it, or is it not? I forget how much you guys know about my background. I spoke for 17 years for free. That was my method. I'm not advocating that method, but I made a couple $1 million over the course of my business from that one marketing strategy of speaking for free to get clients and to get consulting and coaching gigs. So there is money to be made even from free talks, as I know you guys know that. But again, I want to be clear, this is how to also get paid speaking gigs as well. But the simple answer, Michelle, is you have a choice to make, yay or nay, if you want to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
And
Though, a
so
lot
so
of those,
here's the difference between kind of cold contact, like they don't know who you are, yeah, and they're just gonna say, well, we don't pay. Sometimes they pay, like we don't know. Everyone's different. But if you are coming in as an expert to that association, if you've been writing articles for them, if you have reverse prospected them, maybe you spoke for a corporation that's already on the board for an association, like there are lots of ways to get in as the trusted advisor expert, and you're positioned and valued much higher at that point, right? They already know that you're awesome. They've heard of you, or lots of different ways. So I really believe it kind of depends on the strategy that you even get into that association with, how they're going to come back to you right off the bat. So,
well, the only thing I'll add to that is it depends on this, just like Stephanie, you said, and it also depends on what level of the chapter of the association you're going to. I went to the chapters, right? So that's an important distinction. And again, I'm not advocating for it. I'm just declaring there's these options that you have. So I didn't contact the National Association of Women Business Owners, the national level. I researched their local chapters and actually went to the chapter route. And for those of you that are not yet getting paid to speak, so it's something to consider. At least you're getting out there and speaking and building your practice and working on your skills and meeting people and inspiring and teaching audiences. And a lot of times those will lead to the paid gigs. Again, it's not the only way to go. It's just a way to go.
mm-hmm.
For crying out loud, get out there speaking. Nothing is better for you to be doing than speaking.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to do Leslie's question, then Sean's, and then Leslie has another question. So we're just going to go in order here, Leslie. So we'll do the first question first. I understand all that you need to do to run a successful business. I don't understand how to manage time-wise and prioritize. Looking for a VA. I've not yet been successful at hiring people who produce quality work. Until I hire one, can you share how you break down a typical day? So again, I'll answer this, but if you guys have some tips as well, I know some of you are in the process of hiring VAs, some of you have them and are delegating, and some of you don't have them at all. So make sure you can share with Leslie. Oh, there you are, Leslie. Perfect.
Yeah, I came back.
So Leslie, just quick start. What are you doing now? What are we starting with here?
Oh, sure. But last week I was doing a lot of research on addiction codependency and finding 20 people to reach out to today to get sponsorship. Sorry, I'm going to put these on the glare. And then getting resources together. I'm focusing on the radio show.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have, my book's going to be done in March, and I haven't done social media. So I'm tossing back and forth. I have a lot of content that I'm looking for someone to break it up. Like I have 40 something interviews with people that are combinations MP3, MP4 that I can break into clips and put out. I've got a good zillion articles and stuff I've written. So I don't know, I'm prioritizing, I need to rate it between book, radio show, and getting everything ready for social media. I don't know which one to prioritize. And this is my issue too, because I have ADD and some other issues. This is a lifelong problem. I mean, and I am going to speak in occupational therapy. So hopefully they'll help with that too. But like where I get stuck is I don't even know, like, I don't know how much time to spend on each thing. Like, I don't know how to schedule. That's horrible. Now I'm 60 and I don't do that. So like, just again, idea, Sarah and I talked and she said, well, do your stuff in the morning and your emails in the afternoon. In context, I get that. But like in my stuff, how much do I spend one day on just doing the content stuff and one day on, did I make myself clear? I don't want to keep going on and on.
For sure. I think this is an extremely common problem that usually, so I teach a course on strategic planning as well. So, this is very relevant this time of year, but I would say one of the main one of the main things that happens is that a lot of entrepreneurs take on very big projects and try and do them all at once, without that kind of strategic plan in place about which ones are more important, which ones stack on the others, which ones help me line up with the business that I want to build. So it sounds like right now you have many large projects all at once, like writing a book, you're doing the speaking business, you've got a radio show, there's a lot going on there. So first of all, I would kind of look at, like, are there any of those big projects that really do not need to happen right now? There sometimes deadlines are arbitrary, sometimes they're things that we've put on ourselves and they just don't make sense. So
Well,
that would be the first thing I would look at, is like, really, does all of this have to happen right now? Maybe yes, maybe no, but that's the first question I would answer. And then the second thing, well, and in parallel with that first one is, are they all aligned with the business that you really want to build? Or are they kind of projects that were put on you by someone else, like Sophia's online course that she apparently has to make now? You know,
no, they all are what I want to do.
Okay.
And where I'm getting caught is, since I don't have a following, like the radio, I'm doing a radio show instead of a podcast, number one, because you all see me with technology. But the second is they have a built-in audience of like 100,000 viewers per week, right? So I'm thinking the radio show is probably first, because if a book launches, I only have like 1,200 people on Facebook. I have no one to sell it to.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I'm going. Like, I need the following. I need the radio show will probably give me more following than social media, right? Because this is one. So I'm thinking everything for the radio show first. I don't know.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're already on the right track. I find also a lot of times people don't prioritize the things that most need to be done first, like the scariest things or the money-making activities. Sometimes we look at like, well, maybe I'll just work on my website, even though, because that's not scary. It's just this thing that can take forever. And it's just like, feels like this thing that has to be done. And I'm not saying this is the book for you, but it could be the book for you. The book could be this thing that's like, that's really just a tool that's masking the things that need to be done, or maybe the things that are scary, or the things that are most important. So
I think, well, the book, two things with the book. Number one, I hired a company for ghostwriters. So I'm kind of, you know, because the book is written. I just have to read and proof the rest. But I think they launch it and they do the stuff at the end. So I'm kind of, I don't know what they'll let me do on their schedule. But
you can ask. You can ask,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
so
yeah, I can ask it. And then the book, though, for those who read it, I think that's where they're really going to go, holy shit, she knows her stuff. So I'm not using it as a money-making tool, almost as like whoever I can get in the hands of, it's going to be a credibility tool. In my mind, I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, so it's
according to the ghostwriter, she thought so, and she's like, this needs to be a series. She's like, just like Chicken Soup for the Soul, which kind of lights me up. I mean, I think I've realized in this, like, I'm not more of the corporate speaker. I'm like a TED Talk, like, inspire speaker.
So it sounds like one of the things that's missing from your order of things, Leslie, is before the book launches, there needs to be some strategic planning time, right? Like you're saying, okay, so I've got this radio show, I've got tons of, and for the record, the book launch and stuff is not part of this course. I'm not an expert on book launches or building audience, well, you know, that sort of thing. It's not really part of this course, but when we're looking at priorities, it's you don't just want to throw stuff at the, like, okay, yeah, now I've got this book, great, move on. Like, there needs to be a significant part of your month or your year or whatever that's put into building the strategic pieces to move on to the next thing. So if you don't have that booked in, then the book launch is just going to be a launch with no one who buys it, right? Yeah. So, but going back to your question, so your question was actually about time management. It seems, and I know I keep coming back to Michelle's, I think it was a parking lot. You have a parking lot list that's like a not now list, things that
Right.
you know, come up. And so if you're having ideas that are just coming up all the time, like make sure you've got a parking lot list. You've got a list that's a not now. It can happen, but it's a not now list. It's a triage.
Right.
And another thing that, again, don't know if you're doing this or not, but I find a lot of entrepreneurs, they work from home, their schedule's flexible, they actually don't treat it very seriously. So
Yeah,
I don't know if you're doing this, but
that's not me, but the problem is I think I work way too hard and too ineffective.
yeah, perfect.
I mean, I
So-
worked my ass off at this for years to the point where I'm almost kind of burning out. And now in the day, I don't even start work really till like 3 or 4, because that's when I do my best. And like the evening hours, you know, I work till 1 or 2 in the morning. And yeah, so I've tried.
So there's one thing that happens that all of you can kind of watch out for. One is we maybe don't put in as much work as we should be to our work. It sounds like that's not what's happening to you, Leslie, but I know it can happen. It's like, today I've got like a long lunch meeting, and then I got some laundry to do, and then I've got whatever, right? Like we can definitely tend to not treat the business seriously. On the other hand, as entrepreneurs, we have this expansive amount of time. Our work expands to the amount of time that we have. So since we don't have a 9 to 5 and we're not trying to get our work done so that we can leave the office and go home and whatever, our work can really expand to fill that amount of time. So it sounds like maybe you're on that end of the spectrum, Leslie, where it's like, well, I can do this anytime. So it takes all of this time. So some tools, it's about building in those accountability systems for yourself, right? So setting some hard deadlines, having some maybe you need an accountability partner, right? Where you're saying, okay, I'm going to have this done by this day, because your work will expand to be done by that day, right? To meet those deadlines.
I get in trouble like on big projects, right? Estimating, like in my head. Okay, I'll give you an idea. A couple years ago, before I started this, I said, I'm going to go away for the weekend and write a book. Like, seriously, I thought I could. And that's just the way I have no concept. So that's what I'm saying. Do I just in my head go, okay, you know what, get the sponsors for the radio show. And then once I get those, the next like few weeks or months, all I'm doing is dealing with the content for like, so would that be reasonable?
Yeah, so I want to wrap up this question because we still have a couple other questions, but that's okay. But I would, if you're interested, the best book I ever read on this kind of thing is David Allen's Getting Things Done. And another major problem that entrepreneurs have is we don't break down our tasks small enough. So you have this one big task, and when you sit down at your desk to work on it, it's this ginormous task. And it's hard to know what the next step is. It's hard to feel like you're making progress. A really great thing about David Allen's book is he helps, and this is something I can help you do, but we don't have, it's not the context of this course, but you know, breaking down those tasks into really small, manageable, bite-sized things that'll take you no more than half an hour to do at a time.
Cool.
You want them that granular so that when you sit down, you're like, oh, I have half an hour. I can get this task done, right? So that's something a lot of people really, really struggle with. David Allen does a great job of teaching you how to do that. But that sounds like a really big key for this.
Even though you're not my coach, can I schedule a call with you for that or no? Does the program work that way? Well, now I'll email you. Never mind.
Yeah, let's talk offline about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. So break things down, really small bite-sized pieces. Then having the time in your schedule to do a couple of those every day, you'll know what you're doing, and that should help. That's a really simplistic way of talking about a really big topic, but I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is the next question, Stephanie, her second half, or?
Sean, let's go to Sean's question.
Are there any ways of making the process of sending out initial individual LinkedIn connection requests quicker and/or easier. Sometimes generated lead lists and Sales Navigator can be huge. I'm going to ask for help on this. It's my turn to answer, but I do not.
All right. I'll answer. I'll try and answer this one. Sean, where are you? Oh, there you are. Perfect. Just a tiny bit more context. What do you mean? The lists that are being generated, just like your search terms, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. By drilling down, using your filters, even as specific as you can get, and for your lead list, it can still be hundreds, and you're plugging in your template that we have for our LinkedIn Connect, and you're customizing it and making sure that the right name is and everything. It can be really time consuming. This could be as quickly as saying, no, there's no quicker way, and just tell me that. But I thought I'd throw it out there to see if there's anything out there. Are there like programs that'll connect with LinkedIn that'll do that? Or
Okay. So Leslie, I'm just going to mute you here a second. There we go. Okay, so the answer is technically there are other software tools that do this. And I have previously worked for a company that did LinkedIn lead generation, and we did it a few different ways. So one is, we had a software. There are lots out there to varying quality, and honestly, they kept getting opening and shutting down and getting shut down by LinkedIn, and then your account would get shut down. And then, so technically these tools exist. I personally don't like them. I personally found them risky. They're technically against LinkedIn's policy. If you connect with too many people, they shut down your account. If you get too many spam requests, they shut down your account. If you there's just a lot of dicey things that can happen that I just didn't feel good about. Yep. We then switched to having essentially a VA do the search and send them out. And it was time consuming. And even that was still a bit dicey. Like they had to log into our account as us, which in and of itself can be challenging for LinkedIn because you need to do access code exchange things, and it can be complicated. Sometimes English is not a strength, or they would copy paste things wrong, and it was just so. The lesson in this for me, and again, you guys can do what you want with the business, but the lesson in this for me was accuracy and quality was more important than the speed. So if you take the time to type their first name incorrectly, for example, or if you're customizing that message, everyone is getting spammed by LinkedIn bots now. Like, I mean, how many of you are getting spammed by LinkedIn bots? I certainly am. So I would say, yes, officially, yes, there are ways you can do it faster. I'm not sure I would recommend that you do it faster, other than, again, hiring an assistant who can help with things, but it's so if you have Sales Navigator, that's better because you can send more connection requests without getting flagged. You can typically get your account reactivated. With Sales Navigator, you can send links and things, which you can't do with the regular LinkedIn. So you already are in a good place by having Sales Navigator, but I would focus more on the active 20 strategy and connecting to people you're already connected to and that sort of thing, rather than like, hey, I can do 100 today and 100 tomorrow and 100 the next day. That's my take on it. I'm sure that's David's take on it too.
Yep, that's great.
Steve? Yeah. Oh, yeah, and we do have the LinkedIn tool, Steve, that you're using. So I'm curious.
There was a referral from this group for the team at LinkedIn Leads, and they're fantastic. I get no kickback. This is very unsolicited. They're really, really, really great. You pay a fee. You have like 6 months to create 3 different campaigns. We use Sales Navigator to kind of pare down the audience, and I've doubled the number of LinkedIn folks. Now, of course, it's up to me to do something with those leads, of course. And that's, where the thing is. But what's been really cool is we've been tailoring that message, and it's not a bot, it's a human that does it. So for example, we were going down a campaign and I was going to a conference and I went in and said, hey, let's add this PS. I'm going to this conference. If you're there, let's have a meeting. And I got 12 face-to-face coffee meetings just from that little bit alone. And that was with Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Pixar. So for me, it worked really well. Obviously, go what's the right strategy. But if you're going to go down that path, a group like that, and I know there's others out there, where it's the human that does it is if you're at that point, it's definitely worth the investment.
Steve, can you just say the name of that again and roughly what it costs?
Yeah, I put it in the link. They have different I guess packages, you might say. So I won't quote their prices, but you can kind of reach out to them and like I said, they're really fair. Again, you get a referral through this program, which was kind of nice. So David Newman's group kind of vetted the good stuff because there's a bunch out there.
Yeah, sorry, I always forget about them. They're in the bonus section, Sean, of the course. I think there's a video there about the process. And I'm so glad that you're having a good experience with them, Steve. There are definitely some bad ones, and we of course don't send you any bad ones. But yeah, does that help answer your question, Sean?
Absolutely, and yeah, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near those apps. It goes against everything that you're teaching in SPF. So thank you.
You are welcome. Do you want to take, I think Leslie's question's next. Do you want to take that one,
The
Michael?
second part, be calling businesses after this week to seek sponsorship for my radio show. Do I use air questioning or simply go for the ask? They get airtime for sponsorship of $100 a month. It sounds like, Leslie, you have a specific sale that you're looking to make or an offer that you're looking to make. And
Yes.
the air conversation methodology does not sound like it would be appropriate for this, if that's what you're asking. If you're asking,
I was asking, do I ask them about their sales budget, or if they need, where do they need clients from? But since this is a specific ask for a specific show, am I more or less just calling them with the ask and maybe trying to get them to see if they have a personal history with family or some personal experience and get more on the emotion side, but not worry about asking what their budget for marketing is.
well, so just to be clear, and I'm sure you know this, but we would not advise reaching out, asking for air conversations with the ultimate goal really to be a sales call. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they can turn into one, but that's a little disingenuous, saying I'm looking to get advice and feedback from you when you wanting to make a sale.
I phrased that wrong. I guess what I meant to say, instead of errors, just typing quickly, what I meant to say was, am I calling, asking them questions, trying to find where a hole is in their marketing, or to see if they need to be a sponsor, or am I just, is that like I'm getting way in over my head? Am I simply just asking them if they'd be interested in being a sponsor?
Yeah, I think so. That leads. Yeah, so that's the second part of it. Is are you more air-like in your offer or your sales approach? And I would say try both. Frankly, I'm a big believer in kind of split testing, whether you do it literally or just kind of as a concept. Try both. Try sending out some offers of, hey, can we get on the phone and talk about sponsorship? I've got a win-win opportunity for you, and then a more indirect approach.
Okay, so email first, and then whoever, and then follow up. Do the sales, email them first versus calling them.
Again, you could try both. Yep. This is one of, as with any real marketing, there's no right or wrong per se. It's what works and what works for you. And the fact that you're looking for a specific outcome, I would not shy away from being direct about it and seeing at least doing it that way to a segment and seeing how it works.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, lots of questions today. Let's just wrap up. By sharing what is it that you guys have been learning. What are you? Any ahas you've been having? A few of you have been going through the modules again and noticing the sales piece. Or Michelle, you were noticing the interview strategy. Anything else you guys have been kind of really noticing or becoming aware of or testing and want to share with the group? Yeah, Sean, and then Patricia.
Yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and say that it's been really refreshing. I jumped in way late working with Amy Lazeski, and so I'm kind of her proxy today. She's on an airplane right now. And it's been kind of overwhelming to, I'm trying to implement this entire huge process you guys have been working on in months and like get clients right away to bring in some short-term revenue. In addition, building long-term relationships. The short-term has been tricky with the holidays in there as well and not getting much feedback. And it's a little different. I'm not a professional speaker, so I'm kind of new to this whole world. And so I'm technically not the expert reaching out to these folks. I'm reaching out to them on behalf of the experts. That's been an interesting challenge as well too, because I'm new to the speaking profession. But I just wanted to say this has given me some nice rails to work with, so I really appreciate it. And that's it.
Super. Awesome. Have in the Facebook group, keep an eye out for Carl Christman and Christine, can't remember her last name, but they're a partnership team similar. So Christine does the sales and the prospecting for Carl. And so they're in a similar boat. There are a few other people. I can't think of off the top of my head who else does that now, but yeah, so they do something similar. They're just on pause right now. So
yeah, that'd be really helpful because it's I'm interested in the differences between speaking for your own company, like everybody's doing here, and speaking on behalf and how that might change the strategy that we're working on. So I'll reach out to them. Thanks.
Perfect. Yeah. Carl Christman, Dr. Carl Christman, I believe. Patricia, I think you had your hand up next.
Yeah. What I got mostly out of this talk today, and I'm super guilty of it, of overcomplicating everything. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so new. As Sean was saying, I've not been a speaker before. I've come from a different background. And with what Martha said and what Michael confirmed, keep it super simple and break it down, as you were saying, into bite-sized pieces, that rather than being so much overwhelmed.
Yeah, good. Good. So important. Yes, Eric? You're just on mute.
I was eloquently speaking on mute. But anyway, is the two things, one of which is, lots of good sort of tips, tactics, tricks, things in general related to that. But probably the biggest win for me has been more associated with the overall body of knowledge, in that it's really shifted my mindset much more toward a marketing and prospecting process by understanding it from sort of a more holistic perspective. Instead of doing a little of this and a little of this, it's letting me conceptualize the whole overarching process.
Yeah, so important to know the bigger picture and what you're working towards rather than just like tactic here, tactic there, because you don't know which ones are going to work and which ones are going to fit into your process.
Yes, so it's allowed me to do that more bigger product and think of things from a different perspective.
Phenomenal. Okay, well, wonderful to have you all here today. We have our next call on Thursday. Remember, Thursday is our money-making activity day, so make sure you've got your money-making activities ready to go to share with us. If you have any questions, make sure to submit them, spfquestion.com, and we'll answer them on Thursday. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.